Hey everyone, this is Alexandra from Hear Me Roar, and welcome to Cacao Talk episode 13, How to Express Our Emotions to Others. But first, let's take a sip of cacao. Today I went with date syrup and cardamom, excuse me, and it's really good. The cardamon's a little strong, but every time I make it, I add a little bit more because I really do love the flavor of it. Okay, so today's topic was actually inspired from a quote that I saw once on Instagram, and this topic of conversation came up last night, yesterday, and so I thought it was a great opportunity to share it, right? So the quote that I saw on Instagram was, if something bothers you 24 hours later, express it within 48, right? And this can be interpreted in many different ways. But one of the few reasons that it resonated with me, it's because it allows me, at least the way that I'm embodying, interpreting it, it allows me to kind of maintain some boundaries that I have set up for myself in how I communicate with others, and also just how to allow myself to come from a place that is heart-centered, that allows me to take ownership for my emotions, but at the same time, honor that sometimes, we're living and existing and co-creating with other human beings. Of course, there are going to be conversations that need to be had. So how do I honor my voice, right? How do I honor needing to express myself, but at the same time that I'm coming from a place that's very heart-centered and that I am allowing myself to take ownership for triggers that are more of my responsibility than anybody else's responsibility, right? Actually, no one is really responsible for our triggers, but we'll get to that in a second. So again, as usual, I think the easiest way to kind of express why I resonate with this is to give some personal examples. So I tend to find myself in one of three categories, and maybe you find yourself in one of these or all three of these categories. Either there will be times with individuals that someone might do something that bothers me, or I feel crossed a boundary, or it triggered me, whatever reason, right? And I won't say anything. I just won't say anything. And the reason I don't say anything sometimes is because I feel that sometimes I feel like there's no need. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to deal with the backlash. Sometimes I feel like the person has so much other stuff going on, I just don't want to deal with it, or there's no need, or whatever, right? There's a variety of different reasons. However, so that's one scenario. Let's go through the scenarios first. That's one scenario. Another scenario is when someone crosses a boundary, right? And I'm overreactive. I don't think that that's the right word I want to say. No, let me backtrack. Sometimes someone will cross a boundary, right? And I'm in such a kind of in a shock, that happened, that maybe I'll say something, or maybe I will try to either like defend myself or put it back on them, or I'll get angry and upset. But like my emotions feel so haphazard. They feel like it's literally like, someone it's like flight or fright, or what's that term? I always get that one mixed up, but basically I find myself in situations that if someone breaks a boundary, like my emotions are so, like I can't really get a good grasp of what I want to express to the person. So I leave the conversation and I'm still too fired up, or that later I realize like, I wish I had said it this way, or I forgot to mention this, and you're just frazzled. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm just so frazzled that even if I do get to express something, it just doesn't come from a place that I feel really honored my truth and what I needed to voice. The other scenario is when someone does or says something, and I can notice and be very honest with myself and see that the way that I'm reacting is way overreacting, right? That yes, maybe they did something that they could have done in a nicer way, or in a more, polite way, or loving way, or considerate way. But the way that I reacted, the way that I showed up, was a little bit more like it was very overreactive, right? And in those scenarios, I feel it's more when someone has triggered us without knowing that they do. And so the emotions are loaded from past things that have happened, whether it's from that individual or others, right? So at the end of the day, I'll go home in any of those three scenarios, And then I'm just sitting at home going, wow, I wish I really had said something differently, or wish I had said something at all, or why don't I allow myself to say something, right? So going back to the phrase of, if something bothers you 24 hours later, allow yourself to say something with 48 hours. The reason I like this is because it gives me an opportunity to step back and really, and go inward and see what is really going on. Right. So it's not just, oh, you wait the 24 hours and then you see if it still bothers you, which of course you could do that. But I'm taking it, okay, let me give myself the time to really go within and see whenever any of those three scenarios or in other scenarios I might find myself in, let me listen to myself and see what's going on internally, right? Like if I didn't say something, but I did want to say something, what are some of those narratives or those beliefs within me? Is it really because it really didn't bother me and it was just like, oh, they're going through something? Was it honestly really that? Or was it that, no, I really did want to say something, but I didn't want to be a bother, or I didn't want to cause waves, right? Because those are two very different things. In the second option, like, I don't want to be a bother, I don't want to cause waves, like that really is limiting your voice. That's closing off your throat chakra. And that's you honestly not allowing you to authentically express yourself, right? And I mean, we can express ourselves in very gentle and loving ways, right? And the other scenario where I felt really frazzled, right? Someone crossed a boundary and I felt frazzled and I feel like I couldn't really express myself. I can go within and just kind of see navigate those emotions, right? And then kind of see if it's valuable or important to go back and have another conversation with that individual, or is it okay to just process the emotions on my own? And maybe the best boundary there, right, is to not talk to that individual anymore. And in the third scenario, where there's an overreaction, it allows me to still stay in empowerment and go within and see, okay, this was my trigger. Yes, they did something that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but the way I reacted was really not necessary, right? Or was really charged and heavy. Let me go within and see what is going on with me and what are some things that, would be beneficial for me to work on or look at, right? And so within those 24 hours, really what I'm allowing myself to do is to kind of bring in some more self-awareness and see in these different scenarios, what is the best course of action that's going to come from a place of love and self-empowerment? And is there now, after that, would it be in the highest and best for everyone involved for me to go back now in a more grounded, not victimhood perspective, go in and now be able to have an open conversation, or at least invite the other person to have an open conversation that's a little bit more heart-centered. Now, if the other person doesn't want to talk to us, then of course we also need to honor that, right? So that's why I really enjoy this phrase. And now I've kind of put it, as one of my tools, is that if something still bothers me 24 hours later, caveat, meaning that I've sat with it, I've internalized it, I've allowed myself to really tap in with my inner knowing, my higher self and inner child and ego, and really bring in some self-awareness from a place of love. And now moving forward, what is that guidance from that inner wisdom, and then how do I now, if there is a need to express it, giving myself that 24 hours, and that can just be reaching out to the person and saying, hey, I feel like I really want to follow up on the conversation we had the other day. And I mean, if it doesn't happen in 24 hours, it's more the idea that I express that I would like to have a conversation, right? So that really has helped me a lot to just take ownership of my own triggers, allow myself to be, heart-centered, be able to, self-empowerment, to come in and bring in self-awareness and just give myself an opportunity to heal and express in a way that feels safe and good for me. And then if something still needs to be said, then I also honor that, right? And I also give myself the opportunity to say something, whether something was said or not to begin with, right? Now, I will end with saying that this doesn't mean that we're condoning behavior, right? If someone really does something that's very harmful, it's emotionally, physically, spiritually abusing, I'm not like condoning that. That's not what this is, right? But sometimes there are scenarios where if we react, right, instead of like respond, we do. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I feel very disempowered. You know, even if I end up having an argument with someone and I'm like really using a lot of energy and I'm trying to prove that they're wrong and I'm trying to prove that I'm right, or I'm trying to prove that what they're doing to me is causing me harm. Like, if I personally feel that if I'm not grounded, you know, if I'm not really grounded in my being and really coming from my heart, even if we're done with the conversation and maybe it's settled down a little bit, or maybe I feel like I kind of got the last word in, I don't know about you guys, but I feel defeated energetically afterwards. I in no way feel empowered. Maybe there'll be like a few moments of the ego going, great, I got the last word, but it doesn't really then let me like have the life experience or the depth of conversations that I want with individuals, you know? So it's not about like the condoning of someone's behavior. And it's also not saying like, I'm right and you're completely wrong. And of course, I'm generalizing this right now, and every scenario is very unique. But what I feel like this does allow me is allows me a moment to take a pause, to take a breather, to really go within and really connect with, you know, why am I creating these patterns of relationships, or why am I constantly getting triggered with this, or why is it that with some people I get triggered and other people I don't? Like for me, in those scenarios, when I'm like focused on the outside world, I don't feel empowered, right? I feel almost like there's no way out of it, right? But when I take the time to go within and connect with my inner wisdom, my inner, you know, my inner child and my ego, and really bring some deep, profound self-awareness of how I'm showing up to the world, what are the beliefs and thoughts that I still have in my mind, and recognize that by shifting, now I have the ability to really see what the root cause of this is, and I give myself the grace to release those things, to transmute those things. Then I allow myself to show up from a place that's more grounded, that feels more empowered, that is more heart-centered. And now I can go to those individuals and either finally say, hey, like, this is bothering me, or hey, you broke that boundary, and you know, this is going to have to change. If not, we can't move forward. Or maybe it's just that I don't talk to that individual anymore. I mean, in all those scenarios, I think it just invites us or provides us an opportunity to kind of maybe just show up a little bit differently. So I just wanted to share that with you guys today. As usual, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, please also feel free to leave that. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.